Hey, welcome to Bill's Garage. Uh, Today we're going to talk about like some testing stuff, and I'm going to show you how to do like a starter test. But really, it's bigger than that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run some voltage drop testing on a starting system. Now, this isn't just used for starter testing. I can test just virtually anything, any electronic load with this voltage drop test. And what we're looking for is like missing voltage. I mean, if I have a starter motor that's not getting all of the voltage current that it needs to operate, it's not going to operate well. And the same thing can be said for, a power window motor, the leveling system. I mean, any type of a load, a light bulb. I mean, I got a light bulb that's dim. I'm going to do a voltage drop across the load, and I should have all of it. I should have all the voltage available. So typical car, when it's just sitting there, 12.6 should be available across the load. So I can do a voltage drop test across a load, and then I can also do a voltage drop test across the wiring. So remember, and we've talked about this before, we should have a voltage drop across the load. That's the thing that does the work. In this case, it's the starter. And we shouldn't have a voltage drop across stuff that doesn't do work, like let's say a switch. That's just controlling it. We're not asking electricity to do anything. You know what I'm saying? So we should have a voltage drop across a load, but across a switch or across a wire or across, some type of a connection, we shouldn't have any, because if we do, that indicates excessive resistance. We okay? So here, I'm going to show you the setup for it, and it's really pretty simple. I mean, remember, there's only, 2 wires on a starter, 3 basically. We got the big fat B line, and then we got the S line that runs to the ignition switch. We're going to look at that later. I'm going to post another short video. I might even do it connected to this one. But so let me show you what I got. So here's my setup. First thing I got to do is I have to make sure that the engine will crank and not start. And that's pretty easy. I've already looked at this. There's a fuse right here, this fuse right here. I could just pull this out. That disables the ignition system. And then I'm going to test the negative lead first. So I'm going to take my meter. I'm going to go to my negative clamp. And then I'm going to come over here. And right here, this is where my ground line from my battery runs. So I'm going to clamp, get this little guy, get a little clippy part, and I'm going to clip it onto my ground line. Now I'm going to wiggle it around a little bit so I get a good bite into this. And then I'm going to set my meter. For voltage, and I just have to crank it. Okay, so I move my meter, move around the hood so I can get my hand on the key, and then all I got left to do is just crank it and look at the meter. Now, so I've got 0.003, and that's fine. That's perfect. As long as I'm down below 0.0 something, I'm good. I start getting into like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. That could point to an issue. So that's the negative line. I've done the ground, the heavy ground side. So here. So now I'm going to take it off of this negative lead, and I'm going to take it off of this negative lead. Now I'm going to check the positive side of the starter. I'm going to check the big fat B line, and that goes from the positive terminal of the battery, and I'm up on this little posty thing sticking out, and I'm going to take this down to my big fat B line, which is right down in here. Can you see it? It's right there. Hang on. Get that picture. See? Boy, that's hard to see. It's right here. And then there's my S line right there, and I'm going to check that one next. So I'm going to go to my B line, and I'm just going to clip onto it. And then I'm going to go crank the engine again. So now I'm on the B line. I got 0.9, maybe 0.1. I'm good. That's okay. Now I'm going to switch over to my S line. Now, this S line goes back to the ignition switch. This is the one that goes on and off with the key. There's a whole bunch of other stuff is on there, the neutral safety switch, the anti-theft. You know, this line also goes to the computer, so there's a lot more stuff on this one. So let's have a look and see what it does. Again, all I got to do is just crank it. So now I'm on the S line, and I'm on the S line, and I'm on the positive. Now, the reason why I'm getting voltage on this one is because that guy goes to ground. Okay, you know, it's seeking ground through the motor itself. So, you know, I got B plus on one side, but it's going to change as soon as I, you know, turn it over to crank. So let's see what we got now. So I got 0.6. Now, that's kind of a lot. So 0.6 is kind of a lot. Now, my next step would be is to pull up the schematic and look and see what exactly is on that S line and where I can go look for the missing voltage, the extra resistance, to see exactly what it is. All right? Okay, so I opened up my database, and I went and looked up this particular car, and I pulled up a schematic of the starting system. So let's have a look at it. And here it is. And we can see here is, hang on. See. There we go. Here's my starter. Now here's my big fat B line, and that goes right back to my battery. And then this is my S line. And if we look where that goes, that comes up to my starter cut relay on this black and white. Now, it's controlled. It has on the load side of the relay, it gets its power from my ignition switch. So here's my ignition key. It gets power in start. And where does it pick up that power from? Well, it runs down here, it runs through my driver's underdash fuse relay box, runs down through my underhood fuse box, relay box, and then it goes to my battery. So what was I checking when I ran that voltage drop on the S line? Well, this was the stuff I was checking. Okay? And notice what I'm not checking. I'm not checking this over here because there's no current for the start line, for the S line, that runs through my neutral safety switch. My neutral safety switch is simply a ground side switch that's controlling this relay up here. So this is the control side. Here's my relay coil. This guy has ground on this side. When the vehicle is in park or neutral, it passes a ground through. So in order to get this relay to trip and this switch to close, I need B plus then from my ignition switch. And it has a dashed line around it because there's a lot more to it. But this guy goes to start, right? Turn the key, stir, that sends power down to the load side and sends power to my control side, and as long as this is grounded from my neutral safety switch, it passes current through. But when I'm doing a voltage drop test, I'm not checking this over here, I'm just checking this. So where's my voltage drop coming from? My hazard a guess, my rule of thumb, is it's probably this ignition switch. I could take the dashboard apart and get up underneath there, or I could test it from here. You know, I could get at this driver's side under dash fuse relay panel if that's easy, you know, or come up in here under C2, find out where this is, the underhood fuse box, blah, blah, blah. Normally in class I would make you guys do this, but this car does run fine. I'm not overly concerned with it, but that would be the next logical step. Let's say I turn the key, nothing. Well, first thing I check would be my battery. Check and see if I got a good battery on here. Check and make sure I got B+, I got battery power at my B line. And then run a fast test and see if I got 12 volts going on and off with the key. If I don't have 12 volts going on with the key, on and off with the key, probably go to my start cut relays next. Get it? Okay. That's about it. Thanks.